Please pay attention. The event will start soon. To the committee members and the offline participants who are still outside, please enter the seminar room immediately. The opening event of Intellecta Talk, the fifth series of Syncology with the theme A Connected Minds and Guidance Rules in Digital Pools for a Balanced Youth World. Today, Friday, October 10, 2025. This event was organized by the Student Association of the Department of Education, Psychology, and Guidance, Faculty of Educational Science, Universitas Pendidikan Ganesha. And in commemoration of World Mental Health Day 2025 begins. The Honorable, the Dean of Faculty of Educational Science, the Vice Dean of the Faculty of Educational Science, the speakers from Malaysia and Singapore, whom we respect, the head of the IPPB Department, Faculty of Educational Science, the Secretary of the IPPB Department, Faculty of Educational Science, Coordinator of Educational Technology Study Program and Guidance and Counseling Study Program, Faculty of Educational Science, all the lecturers of the Faculty of Educational Science, Universitas Pendidikan Ganesha, last but not least, the Chair and Organizing Committee of the Academic Seminar, and along with all participants of today's event. Good afternoon. Om Swastiastu. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Shalom, nama budaya. Good greetings to all of us and harmony greetings or salam harmony. Praise and gratitude we offer to God Almighty because by God's blessing and grace, the opening ceremony of the Intellecta Talk, the fifth series of Syncology, organized by the Student Association of the Department of Education, Psychology, and Guidance, Faculty of Educational Science, Universitas Pendidikan Ganesha. Today, Friday, October 10, 2025 can be held. The respected guests, the schedule of events that we will go through together is as follows. 1. Singing the National Anthem Indonesia Raya. 2. Prayer. 3. Report from the Committee Chair. 4. Speech by the Dean of the Faculty of Educational Science, who on this occasion was represented by Vice Dean 3, Faculty of Educational Science, Universitas Pendidikan Ganesha, who also officially opened the event. 5. The main event of this seminar. 6. Closing. Attention please. First agenda is singing the National Anthem Indonesia Raya. All attendees and invitees are requested to stand. To the committee in charge, please welcome. Attendees and invitees are requested to remain standing. The next is prayer. I will lead the prayer. Pray according to each person's religion and beliefs. Praying begins. Praying can be enough. All attendees and invitees are welcome to sit back down. Next is report from the committee chair. To the committee chair, please welcome.
Om Swastiastu. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Warm greeting to all of us. Shalom, Namo Buddhaya, Harmony greetings or Salam Harmony. The Honorable, the Dean of the Faculty of Education, represented today by the Vice Dean 3, Head of the Department of Education, Psychology and Guidance, Secretary of the Department of Education, Psychology and Guidance, Coordinator of the Educational Technology and Guidance Counseling Study Program, Sinkap Mawa, Coordinator of FIP Undiksha, Public Relation of FIP Undiksha, a lecturer of the Department of IPPB FIP Undiksha, President of BEM FIP Undiksha, all student organization leaders in FIP Undiksha, former commit, members of HMJ PPB FIP Undiksha 2024 and 2025, the chairperson and vice chairperson of HMJ IPPB FIP Undiksha, all commit, members of Intellecta Talk 20 and 25, and all participants of the Intellecta Talk 2025 at the Balingkang Hall and Zoom meeting platform. First of all, let us give thanks to God Almighty because by His blessing, we can gather here today for Intellecta Talk 20 and 25, carrying the theme, A Connect Minds and Guidance Roles in Digital Pulse for a Balanced Youth World. Distinguished guests, allow me to report a few things. As we all know, the world of education today not only demands academic, but also critical thinking skill and good mental health. In an era full of challenge and competition, it is very important, especially for young generation, to maintain balance between learning, thinking critically, and taking care of their mental well-being. With the rapid growth of technology and change in learning styles, students often face new challenges such as academic stress, mental fatigue, and loss of motivation. Therefore, through Intellecta Talk with theme, A Connect Minds and Guidance Roles in Digital Pulse for a Balanced Youth World, we aim to create an open space for dialogue and reflection about how education and learning can go hand in hand with mental health awareness. This event is organized by the Student Association of the Department of Education, Psychology and Guidance, Faculty of Education, Universitas Pendidikan Ganesha on Friday, 10, 20, and 25. It presents qualified speakers in the fields of education and psychology who will share insight and experience on the importance of critical thinking and maintaining mental health in academic area. Dear participants, the attendance of this seminar includes students of IPPB Department of FIP Undiksha who are present in Balingkang Hall, other students from FIP Undiksha, students from various faculties of Universitas Pendidikan Ganesha, as well national and international participants joining through Zoom meeting. This activity is funded by DIPA Fund of the Faculty of Education, Universitas Pendidikan Ganesha. Finally, I would like to express my deepest gratitude to the head-on secretary of the department as well as our student advisor who have great and support us from the preparation until the implementation of Intellecta Talk 20 and 25. Special thanks also go to all committee members for their dedication and teamwork in making this event successful. On behalf of the organizing committee, I sincerely apologize for any shortcoming during the preparation or the event itself. Next, I respectfully invite the Vice Dean 3 of the Faculty of Education, Universitas Pendidikan Ganesha, to officially open Intellecta Talk 20 and 25. May today's event run smoothly and bring meaningful insight for all of us. Om Santi 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 Om. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Warm greeting to all of us. Shalom, Namo Buddhaya, and harmony greetings or Salam Harmoni.
Thank you for your report. The fourth agenda is opening remarks from the Dean of the Faculty of Educational Science. Speech from the Dean of the Faculty of Educational Science, who on this occasion was represented by Vice Dean 3, also officially opened the event, which was marked by the striking of the gong. To the Honorable Vice Dean 3, please welcome.
Thank you for my time. Please, I want to give a salam. Om Swastiastu. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Shalom, Namo Buddhaya, salam kebajikan, salam harmoni. The Honorable Vice Dean 2, the Faculty of Education, Prof. Komang Sudarma. Head of the Department Education, Psychology and Guidance, Prof. Xuan. Secretary of Department of Education, Psychology and Guidance, Ibu Dr. Lestari. Coordinator of Educational Technology, Prof. Dr. Kadek Suartama. Semua akhirnya akan jadi Prof ini. Okay, and Student Affairs Advisor, Simkat Mawa Koordinator of FIP Undiksha, Pak Edi. Public Relation of FIP Undiksha, all lecturer of Department IPPB FIP Undiksha, Bu Arum, oke, Bu Arum, Pak Yuda, Thank you for coming. Formal Committee, members of HMJ IPPB FIP Undiksha 2024-2025, the Chairperson and Vice Chairperson of HMJ IPPB FIP Undiksha, all committee members of the Intellecta Talk 2025, and all participants of Intellecta Talk 2025 at Balingkang Hall and Zoom meeting platform. Okay. Okay, this year, theme remain use the mental health is an essential part of overall well-being. In the midst of academic pressure, social change, and uncertainty of future, mental health is often overlooked. Yet a healthy mind is the foundation of creativity, productivity, and personal being. Today's talk show serve as safe and meaningful space for youth to learn, share experience, and build awareness. That it is perfectly okay not to be okay, and that seeking help is never something to be ashamed of. To all students here today, I want to remind you, taking of your mental health is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign of courage. You are the young generation with vital roles in creating a campus environment that is inclusive, empathetic, and supportive. Okay. This talk show, I hope we can gain new insight, strengthen our sense of empathy, and build a shared commitment to make our campus a healthy space for growth, physically, mentally, and socially. I would like to express my sincere appreciation to the organizing committee. Thank you very much. Our guest speaker, thank you very much. And everyone who contribute to making this event possible. I hope my today activity bring meaningful impact to you all. And enjoy the talk show, take care of your mental health, and let's build a culture of care and kindness together. Om Santi, Santi, Santi Om. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. We open the ceremonial for to get mic 3. 1, 2, 3. Thank you. I hope. Oh, pakai ini ya? I hope Vice Dintu, Pak Kajur, and all, Pak, the head program studi, semuanya ke depan. Bapak Ibu dosen, bareng-bareng di depan kita buka acara bersama-sama. Ketua Panitia, Ketua HMJ mana? Oke, sip, ayo sudah. Mari bersama-sama kita buka, let's we open the ceremonial Intellecta talk today with a pray Om Awigenap Astu Nama Sidam, Om Gam Gane Pataya Nama Swahal dengan pemukulan 3 kali. Thank you. Let's of Om Santi 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 Om. Suksma.
This event is officially opened. Next, we will continue with a group photo session. Invitees who are present in person are asked to stand up, and all participants attending the Zoom meeting are asked to activate their cameras. Okay, for other participants can stand up to take photo together. I will lead the documentation session. Members of the committee are welcome to participate. The documentation session will be guided in 1, 2, 3. Once again with harmony pose. 1, 2, 3. Please all remain back and sit down.
Kamu kenapa?
Aku bingung nih. Kau kan pengen ngembangin kayak bakat gitu kan? Kan ada banyak bakat tuh kan. Nah, aku pengen ngembangin kayak ikut lomba gitu.
Emang kamu ngeliatnya lomba apa?
Kayak yang ngembangin skill gitu ada nggak?
Guys, aku dengar kalian lagi mau ikut lomba ya? Iya, udah kok. Kalian juga lagi pengen ngasah skill kan?
Iya.
Ikut lomba psikologi aja.
Hah? Psikologi?
Yuk ikutin aku. Nah, Psikologi merupakan event tahunan yang diadakan oleh HMJ IPPB FIP Undiksha melalui beberapa lomba.
Nah, beberapa lomba yang kami adakan diantaranya ada lomba logo, ada lomba fotografi, dan juga ada lomba video edukatif.
Kak, emang selain mengasah skill, benefitnya apa aja?
Pertanyaan yang bagus. Selain dapat mengasah skill, kalian juga akan mendapatkan piala, lalu ada uang pembinaan, dan juga akan dapat sertifikat yang pastinya akan berguna banget untuk kalian.
Nah, keren-keren banget kan lomba psikologi 5? Yuk, tunggu apa lagi? Buruan daftar!
See you di Psikologi tahun 2025. Bye-bye!
Thus, the opening event of Intellecta Talk, the 5th series of Psychology, organized by the Student Association of the Department of Education, Psychology, and Guidance, Faculty of Educational Science, Universitas Pendidikan Ganesha. To those guests who have other interests outside of this activity, without reducing respect, please leave the room. Thank you.
Hei, kamu kenapa?
Aku bingung nih. Aku kan pengen ngembangin kayak bakat gitu kan. Kan ada banyak bakat tuh kan. Nah, aku pengen ngembangin kayak ikut lomba gitu.
Emang kamu minatnya lomba apa?
Kayak ngembangin skill gitu ada nggak?
Guys, aku dengar-dengar kalian lagi mau ikut lomba ya? Iya, udah kok. Kalian juga lagi pengen ngasah skill kan?
Iya.
Ikut lomba psikologi aja.
Hah? Psikologi?
Yuk ikutin aku. Nah, Psikologi merupakan event tahunan yang diadakan oleh HMJ IPPB FIP Undiksha melalui beberapa lomba.
Nah, beberapa lomba yang kami adakan diantaranya ada lomba logo, ada lomba fotografi, dan juga ada lomba video edukatif.
Kak, emang selain mengasah skill, benefitnya apa aja?
Pertanyaan yang bagus. Selain dapat mengasah skill, kalian juga akan mendapatkan piala, lalu ada uang pembinaan, dan juga akan dapat sertifikat yang pastinya akan berguna banget untuk kalian.
Nah, keren-keren banget kan lomba psikologi 5? Yuk, tunggu apa lagi? Buruan daftar!
See you di Psikologi tahun 2025. Bye-bye!
To the honorable lecturers, this event will begin at 1:44 for presenting from the speakers. Thank you.
Hei, kamu kenapa?
Aku bingung nih. Aku kan pengen ngembangin kayak bakat gitu kan. Kan ada banyak bakat tuh kan. Nah, aku pengen ngembangin kayak ikut lomba gitu.
Emang kamu minatnya lomba apa?
Kayak ngembangin skill gitu ada nggak?
Guys, aku dengar-dengar kalian lagi mau ikut lomba ya? Iya, udah kok. Kalian juga lagi pengen ngasah skill kan?
Iya.
Ikut lomba psikologi aja.
Hah? Psikologi?
Yuk ikutin aku. Nah, Psikologi merupakan event tahunan yang diadakan oleh HMJ IPPB FIP Undiksha melalui beberapa lomba.
Nah, beberapa lomba yang kami adakan diantaranya ada lomba logo, ada lomba fotografi, dan juga ada lomba video edukatif.
Kak, emang selain mengasah skill, benefitnya apa aja?
Pertanyaan yang bagus. Selain dapat mengasah skill, kalian juga akan mendapatkan piala, lalu ada uang pembinaan, dan juga akan dapat sertifikat yang pastinya akan berguna banget untuk kalian.
Nah, keren-keren banget kan lomba psikologi 5? Yuk, tunggu apa lagi? Buruan daftar!
See you di Psikologi tahun 2025. Bye-bye!
The next activities will be the main agenda of today's international seminar. All the speakers will present via a hybrid format at the Balingkang Confucius Institute building and via Zoom. In commemoration of World Mental Health Day, we are proudly present Embracing Balance to Cultivate Wellness, Resilience, and Hope in Disruption Era. This main event will be handed over by our moderator. For today's event, moderator leads from Guidance and Counseling Study Program and our youngest lecturer in our department. Without further delay, please welcome Septia Rahmawati, Masters of Education.
Okay, is that my sound clearly? Okay, thank you for the time that has given to me. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm so happy to be here with all the gorgeous soul and happy World Mental Health Day 2025. I Septia Ramawati, and today I'm so very glad I am your moderator for this interactive talking, and I'm so glad to be involved as a moderator today. Such a great honor. Deep down from my heart, this is actually to be trusted in this unforgettable seminar. A very warm welcome to everyone joining us today, both on site and online, at this international talk show, Intellecta Talk, interactive talk on education, learning, and critical thinking. I need to mention this very proudly because this event proudly presented by the Student Association of the Department of Educational Sciences, Guidance and Counseling Psychology in commemoration of World Mental Health Day 2025. So give applause for all my committee, to all my kids that has make this event run smoothly. Thank you. This year, we embrace the inspiring theme with the embracing balance to cultivate wellness, resilience, and hope in the disruption era. Before I begin this seminar, or I lead this to be our main activity of this seminar, I need to highlight from the 5 tree about the words that come as the opening speak or opening remarks about what mental health day is to remind us of the importance of protecting and then nurturing our mental well-being amidst the challenges of modern life. So this is our second celebration and World Health Mental Day 2024 and then 2025. Even though in the 2024 we just celebrating is in the small class and especially in my class, and I proud to be held and to be raised your awareness about the mental health my student. Okay, without further ado, our first distinguished speaker is it my pleasure to introduce Associate Professor Dr. Azzmawaty, Ph.D. from the University of Malaya, Malaysia. Dr. Azzmawaty is a senior lecturer, researcher, and licensed counselor whose academic and professional contributions have significantly advanced the field of educational psychology, mental health literacy, and counseling education. So don't to be worried, no need to be worried if this seminar not have any inconvenience because this is we are bring to you our speaker are very fluent in their field. Her expertise span topics such as developing mental health literacy, advocating mental health awareness, life balance, health-seeking behavior, and adolescent health and well-being. She has also collaborated with Malaysia's National Population and Family Development Board under the Ministry of Women, Family and Community Development, focusing on building a healthier families and resilient communities. Through her research and fieldwork, Dr. Azzmawaty has dedicated herself to promoting mental health literacy, especially among young people and working adults, then empowering them to recognize early signs of distress and seek help proactively. So, without further delay, before I give the time for Dr. Azzmawaty, Associate Professor Dr. Azzmawaty Muhammad Nur, Dr. Aziz had joined with us in this room.
Oh, yes, yes, I have.
Alhamdulillah.
Thank you.
Okay. So, Dr. Aziz, without further delay, let us warmly welcome our the first speaker, as Dr. Azzmawaty Muhammad Nur, Ph.D. from University of Malaya, Malaysia. Let's give her a big round of applause. Dr. Azzmawaty, you have 45 minutes to present your presentation, and the time is yours. How are you, doctor? Before you begin your present.
Alhamdulillah, I'm doing all right. And how are you?
Ah, I'm okay, doctor.
Okay, great.
Okay,
Can you
okay.
see my slide? It is always
Yeah.
me. Okay. Allow me to make it bigger. Okay. All right. Just hold on. Video. Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh, and a very good afternoon. I can hear echo, but I hope that it is fine over there. So everything is okay, yes, Septi? It's not that not
Yeah,
loud.
doctor. Alhamdulillah, it's okay.
All right. So allow me to share with you what my talk is all about. But before I talk about what I'm going to share, just want to share with you. Recently, I was actually invited to represent University of Malaya to work closely with the WHO, okay, World Health Organization, in coming up with the center in Malaysia for us to coordinate on mental health. So we are currently working on it, and University of Malaya hopefully will be leading the other universities in Malaysia for this program, mental health literacy. So interestingly, our participation was actually recognized via what we have shared on mental health, and I think mental health is something that we really need to look into because I think a lot of people actually do not still understand what mental health is, and especially mental health literacy. And today, you will be probably wondering, why is Dr. Aziz talking about breaking the silence, promoting mental health literacy and emotional expression in Bali and not in Malaysia? Okay. So interestingly, I have actually done quite a number of research in Malaysia itself. So, and we have actually won the best mental health. I have actually, me and my team have actually won the best community award in mental health in Malaysia. And now it's currently being recognized worldwide. So we are, like I said, working with WHO. And I think it's very interesting when we talk about mental health. Now, why again do I focus in Bali? Because I think when I actually did comparison and after talking or speaking with Septi and also Dr. Ari, so I think that it's very interesting to focus on what Bali has, the understanding of what Bali's population has gone through or currently experiencing, because I also want to focus on the comparison in terms of research that we can actually conduct in the future. So allow me to share with you what this is all about and why mental health matters. As you can see on the screen, it is very important for us to understand what mental health is all about, because it is one of the leading challenge of the 21st century, and especially this is given the what you call that wide coverage after the COVID-19 has occurred. Okay, And it has actually affects all age groups. Previously, we are only focusing on adults and students, especially when students have to want to learn, study online from home. And we have actually not focused, given any focus amongst adolescents per se, especially in schools and also the younger population, children. Now, mental health is one of the defining challenges of our century. It affects all groups, and there is a clear connection between mental health, productivity, learning, and overall being. Okay? When mental health is basically ignored, it does not only harm the individual, but also the families, schools, workplaces, in universities, and obviously the communities. And I just want to share with you the global mental health burden. Across the world, 1 in 7 adolescents lives with a mental health condition. But we are looking at the statistics where it says 1 in 8 people live with mental health disorder. Can you hear me, Sapti?
Yeah, of course,
Okay,
it's
great.
clearly.
One
Dr.
in
Adi.
8 people live with a mental disorder. This is by WHO. The statistics is by WHO, and this is very current for adults. Okay. Now, when we are actually focusing on adolescents, I will get to that later. I'm just going to show you that depression, anxiety disorder, bipolar, and schizophrenic is among the 4 prevalence disorder that has been affecting all of us globally, not all of us, but I'm saying globally. And especially this is being doubled during COVID-19 in the mid 2022. There is a brief report by WHO that states depression is the leading cause of disability worldwide, followed by anxiety disorder. And we know that global mental health, and every year there is almost 700,000 people die by suicide. And suicide is among the leading causes of death in young people. And this is not just happening in Indonesia, but across the world, okay, the globe. And of course, this is also happening in Malaysia. But the focus today, I just want to make a comparison between Malaysia and Indonesia, but focusing particularly in Bali. And this is worrisome. 700,000 deaths each year by suicide worldwide. And these are not just numbers, they represent lives, your family members, okay? And future loss in terms of productivity of the economy of the country. And why is this worrying? Because, the risk factors for mental health problems are everywhere. Poverty, family conflict, violence, lack of support, bullying, and stigma. And all of this increase the burden of global mental health. Yeah. And again, when we look at this figure, and in many cultures, even in Malaysia, in Indonesia, in Bali, silence makes things worse. People suffer quietly without reaching out for help. Now, look at the key statistics about adolescents and the youth mental health and suicide. Look at this, 10 to 19 years old. This is when you are actually doing your probably, where you start going to school, secondary schools, and where you start going to colleges, okay? And you see 1 in 7, that is roughly about 14% of 10 to 19 years old globally experience a mental disorder, a leading cause of disease burden resulting. Disease here refers to depression, anxiety, behavioral disorders. And again, suicide ranks among top causes of death for adolescents and young adults. Young adults beginning from 19 years old onwards. For 15 to 29 years old, you can see this is the 4th leading cause of death besides coronary diseases, that's heart-related issues, diabetic, and also high blood pressure. And suicide is the 4th leading cause. Don't you think it's worrying? Okay, and you can see the numbers, 45,800 adolescents aged 10 to 19. I'm actually very concerned. Like I said, even in Malaysia, this is really happening, and we're concerned why students jump to death, and not only by jumping, but some different forms like taking drugs and medication. So these are worrying numbers. So I've actually mentioned to you earlier about poverty and inequality, armed conflict and displacement. Perhaps in Indonesia, Malaysia, we do not have armed conflict, but recently we have heard, probably, I'm not sure about Bali, and I've actually checked, but maybe Bali was not really affected by the recent political conflict that you had. So these cause disruptions, what do you call this, in terms of political, they are not stable, okay, this stability, so it's quite worrying. And of course, climate change and disasters, digital stress, and social media pressures. I think this is the one that I actually wanted to look into, where when you looked at the digital stresses and the social media pressures, where students can be affected from bullying, cyberbullying, from issues, as simple as you're not as smart as me, you're not as rich as me, you're not as good looking as me, and you wanted to look good, especially on social media. So this may actually contribute to you having stresses, and these are the risk factors that can or may lead to suicide. Now, let's look at the Indonesia adolescent. Earlier, I shared with you is the global. Now, let's look at the Indonesia adolescents' mental health and suicide statistics. The one in blue are the references that I took from. And basically, the prevalence of adolescents with mental health problems, 34.9% of Indonesian adolescents reported experiencing some mental health problems in the past 12 months. I think this is generally, Bali included, a worrisome number because it's nearly half of the Indonesian population. Perhaps this is the time when you can look at your friends. Everybody now, I want everybody now to look to the right and say hi to your friend. And now, everybody now again, look to the left and say hi to your friends. Do you really know your friends? Having issues, having stresses, having worries, okay? So now, diagnosed mental disorders in adolescents, 5.5% of the same adolescent population had one or more diagnosable mental disorders. So now, you have to understand the difference between mental health and also mental disorders. Mental health is basically your psychological well-being, that are the very simple component that begins with CAB. It's like you get up in the morning, you want to drive a car, and you decide whether you want to go towards positivity or whether you want to go towards negativity. You are the cab driver. You decide. So what is this cab all about? The psychological of your mental health for all of us, okay, is C, cognitive, okay? Your cognitive, your thought patterns, your thought processes will result in how you feel, and that will be translated into your behavior. As simple as that. So sometimes when you have a lot of things to do in schools or in universities, your assignments, you may feel some distress. So that is actually disrupting your psychological well-being. That is disrupting your functioning of the day. That is what we relate it to mental health. Okay, so mental health is with a bigger component. And if you do not take care of this psychological well-being, your psychological makeup, your C, your A, and your behavior, then that may leads to mental disorder, may. So nearly half of the population is experiencing mental health issues. For example, like stresses. So you have to understand that now, okay? And 5.5% of that 34.9%, and that's quite a large number because Indonesia's population is huge compared to Malaysia. Okay, so that is very worrying because you are the potential leaders. You are going to be the inspiring leaders of the future. Okay, so now these are some of the most common disorders that I mentioned earlier: anxiety disorders, depression, MDD, conduct disorder, how you behave, PTSD, and ADHD among adolescents. What we want to change the mindset whether be it in Malaysia or be it in Bali, Indonesia, is the help-seeking behavior. It's very low. It's only like 2.6% of those adolescents with mental health problems access professional mental health services, be it counselors. It could be both. It could be mental disorders. It could even be mental health related issues like stress, like worry. It's so little because most of us are not aware of how important our psychological makeup or well-being is all about. And see, 6.2% among 15 to 24 years old in Indonesia, these are actually focusing more on the depression prevalence towards the severe or diagnosable depression, and this is not given attention. Now, when we talk about in Indonesia, the picture is also very concerning. Almost 35%, like I mentioned earlier, or about 5% live with a diagnosable disorder, and yet that less than 3% seek professional help. This shows a very large treatment gap. So the next slide is all about treatment gap. This treatment gap means millions of young Indonesians are basically struggling without support. You can see the number, 75 to 85% untreated in low-income countries. Low-income countries may also include Malaysia because Malaysia is not developing countries. It's not a developed country. It's still developing, just like Indonesia. So we are amongst those. These two countries are amongst those low-income countries. And the treatment gap means there are millions of young Indonesians, okay? Hundreds of thousands of young Malaysians are basically struggling without support. Why? Because of stigma, the lack of access. In Malaysia, I don't know about Indonesia, but in Malaysia, we need more counselors. We need about 33,000 counselors, 45,000 counselors, 50,000 counselors, but we currently only have 11,000 counselors that's working. And this has been an issue for us because there's lack of access. So fear of being judged, stigma, and shortage of professionals that I just mentioned are some of the reasons why the treatment gap exists. Now, let's look at the global responses. The good news is that countries around the world are now starting to respond. It's no longer the silence treatment. It is now a part of the conversation. When we talk about mental health, it's now part of conversation. I'm sure some of you are okay talking about it openly compared to previously, where it is a taboo, where people don't want to talk about mental health. Okay? And campaigns to reduce stigma, programs in schools, community-based interventions, and global awareness days are actually making a difference. But the scale of the problems requires much more than what is currently being doing. So that is what we are discussing today. We are discussing about a lot of campaigns like what Saptia and Dr. Ari and team is currently doing and sharing, and the students are doing. This is good. This is promoting mental health. But are we really, applying what we know, and are we really taking actions? So like I said, the scale of the problem requires much more than what is currently being done. Now let's focus on the mental health in Indonesia. So basically in Indonesia, we see growing awareness. Wonderful. Congratulations, Indonesia. Congratulations, Bali. There are community initiatives, school programs, and government policies starting to address mental health. And that's the same in Malaysia. We're actually focusing on mental health. Mental health is now part of Malaysians' like I said, conversation. It's an everyday conversation. But we are still fighting to include that more in the module of Malaysian context, yeah? So, however, there are still gaps remains, especially in the rural area and places where stigma is strong, because there is an unequal access to psychiatrists, psychologists, and I forgot to put the word counselors. Why? Because the budget is also less than 1% of total health spending. This is Indonesia. This is what I found from the literature review. And only 6%, that sign is not minus, yeah, it's approximately 6% report that they are actually having depression. Approximately 9% reported that they have emotional problems. So most of the time, these issues are swiped under the carpet. Now, probably you ask me, Dr. Azi, why your interest in Bali? I've actually been talking to Dr. Ari, if she's here. I've also spoke to Miss Septia, the ever gorgeous Miss Septia. Let's look, because they actually talked to me about the worrying numbers and trends, rising trends in Bali. So I was talking about, let's now have a research on this. So I've actually come up with all these statistics to help Septi. Septi, I've also given you the slides earlier. Now, why in Bali? So why are we focusing on Bali today? Because Bali has the highest suicide rate in Indonesia. Indonesia is large. You have Sumatra, you have Sulawesi, banyak kan? But Bali has the highest suicide rate in Indonesia, where it recorded roughly about 3.07 per 100,000 adolescents in 2023. Means out of 100,000 Indonesians adolescents, 3 students committed suicide. Okay? And you have millions of youth. So that is a worrying numbers. And 135 cases in 2023, mostly young adults. And many of those were young adults, yeah? And because Bali depends heavily on tourism, and the economic challenges affect families and young people deeply. So I remember visiting Bali, and when I actually asked them, they said most of them are actually involved in tourism. So this creates dependency only on tourism, where again it affects the vulnerables. Okay. Now the specific figures that I've tried to unearth from the literature review: general mental health problem, junior high students, Bali, 12 to 15 years. Okay. Almost 15% of junior high school students have mental health problems. About 7% are at risk of suicide. This 7% is from the total number of 15%. And this has actually indicated clearly that problems begin at an early age. Therefore, it is very important for all of us to understand that without intervention, the risk will continue to adulthood. So what do I mean by this? So you need to intervene at a very young age, because else it will create a childhood trauma that will navigate its way towards adulthood. And when it goes to adulthood, this is when more people will be diagnosed with either mental health disorder, or even they commit suicide. Now, let's look at the comparison of suicide rates between Bali and Indonesia itself. So when we compare suicide rates across Indonesia, Bali stands out. The rate is higher than other provinces I mentioned earlier, showing us that this is not just a national problem for Indonesia, but it is a local crisis. And I love that SAPTI has actually encouraged speak about this, because this is wonderful. When you understand, then more studies can be conducted on what can be the best prevention, or rather intervention. Prevention, intervention, and continuing efforts that's going to be taken by Undiksha. In particular, the students of counseling students, psychology students, okay, to help intervene in what's happening in Bali. Now, let's focus on suicide in Bali, the key drivers. The key drivers of suicide in Bali are complex. I cannot just say that it's very simple. No, it is not as simple as that. Okay, for adolescents, it generally results from family conflicts, school stresses, and even dads that plays a role. Remember dads, because I said dependency is basically on the tourism, and that actually plays a role. For young adults, it focuses on unemployment, relationship problems, because young adults are now moving into adulthood. Adulting, they say the word adulting. My son just talked to me earlier and said, Mommy, just allow me to do some adulting. I'm like figuring out, okay, what is adulting? So I figure it out. So basically experiencing relationship problems, basically trying to to venture into new areas where you're looking for good career, and depression are among the common results. Financial pressure, including online loans. Now, we are worried about what digital era, which is the digitalization, which is good for us, is very innovative. It can be also a place where we can actually gain money, okay, gain a lot of exposure in terms of, trying to get new knowledge and all that. But it also has its adversity, the negativity, where you can actually results in young people online loans also adding to the risk. And in Malaysia, our main concern now is where young people is more involved in credit card, the usage of credit card. And now we also are very concerned with Grab. I'm sure you know what Grab is. And I've seen how the Malaysians, the Singaporeans have sent food to people in Jakarta, for example, using Grab. So now the worrying thing about Grab is when, or even Shopee, where you can actually purchase things first without payment. So this has actually resulted in young people involving in increasing that. And not only that, now another way is when the sellers actually offers, like for example, I said, okay, Miss Sapti, I'm going to buy stuff from you. It will cost about 200 ringgit. So I pay Miss Sapti. But what happened generally is Miss Sapti pretend to send a box to me, but inside the box is basically money. But she will return to me only about 180 ringgit Malaysia. The 20 ringgit is the tips. So now that is happening, and that is actually worrying, okay? Now, the unique factors, the risk factors in Bali, what makes Bali unique is the combination of factors. There is heavy reliance, like I mentioned earlier, tourism, stigma around psychiatric health, and the role of religion and tradition. For some, religion is protective. I'm sure there is. Most of, I know the religion in Bali is Hinduism, okay, and religion is mostly protective. Okay, and for others, it adds guilt and shame. Why is this happening? Because you cannot talk about it. It's a taboo talking about issues that you face because you are supposed to go back to religion. People in Malaysia usually will say, when somebody has issues, okay, go and pray, for example, okay? And this is not the way how to solve issues. And the young people needs help, and these are making them like all of you, most of you, it's very difficult to talk about it because you feel ashamed, you feel guilty. And this cultural complexity makes silence even more dangerous. Okay? Now, let's look at the gaps in mental health services. I've mentioned this earlier. The gaps in services are very clear. There are limited psychiatrists and psychologists as well as counselors in Bali, perhaps. And most suicide victims never received treatment. Not just in Bali, this is also worldwide, even in Malaysia. We found out that most of the suicide victims never received treatment because of, again, the complexity of the culture that makes silence even more dangerous. And the cultural stigma continues to prevent open discussions about mental health. Okay? And why is breaking the silence important? If you notice all of my slides, there are pictures, and the pictures is actually telling you stories. A picture can tell you 1,000 words. It's like we are trying to break the wall. See, that's a wall where there's a small light for you to go through it and weave your way out from the wall. So this is when we are talking about stigma. And stigma plus silence, you being silenced. And the young people is generally suffer in isolation. When silence and stigma dominates, young people tends to suffer alone. But when we open up the conversation, we actually give them hope. So Sapti, Dr. Ari, you're doing great. You are giving these people hope. And the students here, when you are listening to all this, you are gaining new knowledge. You can actually help others by talking about all this. Okay, so you need to open the conversation because you need to give them hope. These people will hold on to hope. Talking about suicide does not encourage it. People think that, hey, you're talking about suicide, you're encouraging it. No, it is not encouraging it. It helps prevent it. Breaking the silence can actually save life. It's like the book, okay? The power of emotional expression. Now, What is mental health literacy? Knowing, understanding the signs of stress, anxiety, and depression. So let's talk about what mental health literacy is all about. It's basically about your ability to recognize. Do you recognize that you are stressed? Do you validate your feeling when you're feeling anxious and even depression? People always feel that you have depression and you're going to be diagnosed. No, anxiety is part of us. I'm sure you know stress is part of us because stress is physical. Okay, when you're too tired, you feel stressed, that is physical. When you talk about anxiety, that's part of you. Worrying is normal. Perhaps Miss Sapti earlier was worried because today is our orientation day for postgraduate students. So I told her, oh no, I'm actually quite busy in the morning, and later at 3 o'clock, I need to be in the in UM again. I mean to have what do you call that speech that I need to deliver. So, and she was calling me. Perhaps at that point of time, she was anxious. Anxious is also part of us. That's worrying. That's normal. But if you do not know how to take care of that anxiety, that may result in anxiety disorder in a long run. And people say depression, and people always misunderstood that depression is only those who are being diagnosed. No, depression in DAS 21. Depression, anxiety, stress scale, 21 questions. Remember, that's 21? That is part of your emotions. You know, sometimes when you are too tired, you just want to be left alone. You don't want people to be around you. And perhaps you feel like you want to cry, and that's normal. That's probably when you're having your slots of depressions, your experience with depression. But we're not saying that you are depressed, because that is you depressing yourself. You know, depressing is different from depression itself. So I hope you understand what I'm trying to say. Okay? Now, it's also very important for you that where to seek help and empowering communities to support one another. Now, this is very important. The power of emotional expression, that is one of the variable in my topic where I talk about breaking the silence, mental health literacy, and also the power of emotional expressions. So emotional expression is powerful. I'm sure when you look at me, you can see how I'm full of expression when I'm talking, with my face, my reactions with my hands. Yeah. So do you know that emotional expression is actually very important and very powerful when you name your feelings? There are times that you feel that, hey, I don't know how I feel. Take a moment, my dear. Take a step back. Take a moment and name that feelings. When I actually do my counseling sessions, and when the client says, I don't know how I feel, I usually will not tell them, are you feeling upset or angry? Or no, I won't put words in their mouth, but I will ask them to, let's take a step back. Let's just breathe in and breathe out. And then let's just take some time for you to think. And then you need to name that feeling. And you wait. Okay? This is when you help them to reduce the inner pressure. When you express emotions, when you allow your client or your friends, to express their emotions, you are allowing them to connect with themselves and then later connect with others. And that connection creates healing. So those, like I said, my pictures, all the pictures that I chose gave meaning. In the bubble, with that two little bubble, that is when you are thinking. And there are some that you're upset, you're angry, you're raging, you're speaking out loud, you're speaking normally. So how do you express yourself? Because unspoken pain becomes silent suffering. Okay, this is why it is very important for all of us to create safe spaces. You need to have your safe space. Okay, do you have your own safe space? I'm sure you do. All right, in schools, in your family, and at your workplace, Sapti and Dr. Ari, where people feel safe. So what I'm working now is generally I'm a consultant for the Bank Negara Malaysia, or for you called it your BNI, Bank Negara Indonesia. for us, Bank Negara Malaysia. I'm the consultant and I'm actually looking towards their psychological safety. So what is psychological safety? Basically for you to have a safe space talking about what you want to talk under the sun. So probably Undiksha, you can now create a safe space where your students feel free to go there, just create a space with books, with coloring pencils, coloring books for them to just express themselves, to sit there. And you put there no judgment room, maybe, I don't know, because in my house I have a Terra rain room. Why? Because I love the sound of the rain, and I call it Terra rain room because it's therapeutic when I listen to the sound of the rain. Okay, it's at my glass house. So how do you create that, how do you actually allow that unspoken pain to get out of it? Now, the challenges in Bali. The challenge in Bali are serious. People are told not to talk about it. Clinics are few and mostly in urban areas. Fear of shame, those are the gaps that stops many people from finding help. And almost 7%, if you look here, I'm actually reading the slide, okay? 7% of students are already at suicide risk. Already at suicide risk. And not yet attempting it. Not yet. Probably just suicide ideation when they have thoughts, but not yet attempting. So 7% is quite worrying. So what we are trying to do is from hesitation to liberation, mastering the courage to seek help. That is what we are trying to do. So now let's put our hands together. Let's break the silence together. What can you do? You always have to ask the question. You are now in university. You are now in Undiksha. Anda semua adalah antara yang terpilih untuk menjadi mahasiswa yang hebat. So how can you put your hands together? It doesn't matter whether you are psychology students or counseling students or English students, mathematics students or whatever, science students. Let's put our hands together. So what can you do? Ask your friends around you, what can we do to help to lessen these numbers? So what you need to do is to normalize the conversations of mental health. It is okay to talk about how you feel. We need to train the teachers, the students, the parents, the leaders. We can build on local values like gotong royong. Gotong royong is a Malaysian word. I don't know whether you understand, but it's actually putting your hands together. Where you go to the community, you talk about it. While you are cleaning the area, for example, I always send my students to clean. For example, in high-rise building, we call it PPR. That is the socio-economic wise, is quite low. So we go there so to help them clean the area. At the same time, my students will be talking to the young ones while asking them to help the students to clean up the area and talk about mental health. It's like injecting the knowledge without them realizing. So that is one way we could do. And we should encourage peer listening and safe storytelling. So this is what I'm trying to do in my university, where I've actually been training my mental health advocates from year 1, and then they go to year 2, now they go to year 3 and 4, and one of the batch has already graduated. So every year I have mental health advocate. Without them realizing, I have actually created that in University of Malaya. Now, local responses in Bali. I'm not sure whether this is correct or not, because this is what I get from Google. And I don't get this from literature review, but from Google. So if I'm wrong, please correct me. Bali Bersama Bisa Coalition, Bisa Olisa 24/7 Helplines Bahasa in English, Suryani Institute Crisis Center. And why is this urgent? Okay. Again, there are already some positive responses, local NGOs, schools, and health workers who have already taken actions, but the scale is still small. So students, now the way we learn is different from how I learned before. Most of the time, what we learned before is generally theory. We do apply, but just maybe 20%. But now we encourage students to go to the community, and that is why it's urgent. That is urgent because every youth suicide means a lost future for your economic, for your family, which left the family members in trauma. you know what? When I read this, it makes me realize that perhaps these youth or the young adults or maybe the adolescents did not realize that the pain that they leave to their families behind. Yeah, the silence and stigma make the situation worse, and that is why we actually must act now and not later. So what can we do? We cannot stop suicide. If they have that intention, they will still go and do it now. Okay, but we can reduce it. I take that back. Okay, I just want you to say something actually, but nobody is talking. We can stop suicide. Who says we cannot stop suicide? That is the reason why I share this, because we can actually strengthen the school-based programs where you can help build, youth-friendly services, mental health literacy, peer support, like what I said. That's what I do in University of Malaya. If Bali wants, if Undiksha needs me, I'm able to go there and train your students how to become mental health advocate, because I'm actually going to Kazakhstan again soon to share with them how we do it in University of Malaya. They have actually invited me. So we can also strengthen the community by training them and the religious leaders. Because when I was in Bali, it really interests me to see that Balinese are very religious. Okay, the culture. So we need to train the religious leaders to make them aware that he is fine talking about mental health, because in Malaysia, most of them are now very open, but there are some religious leaders that probably do not understand. So they always associate with jinn, the genies, okay, the devils. So that is not necessarily it. For example, I just want to share with you, if you have schizophrenia and you hear voices, and you have hallucinations, not you, but people have, our client have hallucinations. Some of the religious leaders, if they do not understand this, they will associate them with jinns, the genies. That is not correct. So we need to train the community and religious leaders and provide families with counseling after attempts of suicide. Okay, together we can actually build a safer environment for youth, because we need to help the health, integrate the primary care with mental health. We can actually include policy where we can actually invest in prevention and create more access. Interestingly, you can also invite school students to come and visit Undiksha and talk about it. Do you know that sometimes we always feel that, hey, it's such a waste of time that we have actually put so much effort in doing this, but the school students doesn't seem to be interested. I just want to share with you, I'm now part of Hebat, Hapus Elak Basmi Asap dan Bakau. Hebat is the acronym, and also Bebas. I'm sure you know about Zara Kairina, bullied. Bebas is bersama, elak, bully, agar selamat. That is our main research area now. And we've got the best community award and also the best University of Malaya research award for that. When we first started with this research, we thought that, hey, it's going to be a waste of time because they're not going to stop vaping, they're not going to stop bullying, but we can see changes. Little by little, our government now is banning selling vapes and cigarettes in the open. Just recently, 31st of September, that was the last day for each and everyone. The shops in Malaysia, they are allowed to sell cigarettes openly. They can still sell cigarettes, but they have to heat it with cloth or put it in a cupboard. It's closed. So it's trying to discourage, and it's working. We have started working on this since 2017. God knows how long that was. And we have been to Maldives, and in Maldives, when we actually talked about vape, the government interestingly has agreed to stop promoting vapes. And if you vape in Maldives, it's wrong, but you can still go for cigarette. So it's a little bit interesting, but we are still working with the community center under WHO in Maldives. But at least there's something. So never ever think that your effort is down the drain. It's never. So it's important for all of us to actually understand that we still have to keep on going with the frustrations that we have, but at the end of the day, it worked. So you need to have lots of people to work on this so that we have continuous effort in making this happen. To summarize, the key messages that I'm trying to share with you is very simple. So mental health literacy saves lives. That's it. Emotional expression brings healing. And breaking the silence is everyone's responsibility. It's not just the educators, the government, but it's everybody. And the inspirational call that I want to share with everyone is that mental health is everyone's business. Yeah. And support and not silence. Let us remember mental health together, that we can make sure no young person feels left out and they are not alone. Okay. And silence isolates, but expression connects. So you need to speak up. We need to support others. We need to build a culture where mental health is actually shared responsibility. And I believe that together, all of you, okay, Bali can lead in promoting compassion, literacy, and resilience. Perhaps this can be a call to all the educators out there for you, Undiksha, to take a step forward to share what this is all about and to make a change and to share this policy to the Indonesian government as well. Now, I would like to hear from you. How can we strengthen youth resilience? What role should community and religion play? How can policies reduce stigma and improve access? So these are some of the questions that I've actually prepared for you to think about it. Probably, Sapti, this can be part of the discussion in your class soon. Okay. And I think it's also very important. Your ideas and voices matter. As I close, I want to leave you with this thought. Even in paradise, Bali is known for its paradise, silence can hide pain. So today, we break the silence together. When we break the silence together, what we are doing is we are creating hope. Thank you for your attention, your presence, and your commitment to breaking the silence. Together, we can make mental health a shared responsibility. Okay, so if you would like to continue with the conversation, you can reach me at my email earlier I've shared. Maybe you can get it from Miss Sapti. I'm from University of Malaya. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Aziz, about your enlightening presentation and meaningful insight. Wow, this is make me so wow, boom. Like, okay, we need a lot of homework today about breaking the silence.
Yeah,
Please, everybody, give applause again to our first speaker.
thank
So,
you.
Dr. Aziz, will you leave after this soon? Or
Yes, I will have to because I have a talk later at 3. So maybe about 2:45, then I can leave.
okay, okay. I have 10 minutes. Okay. So, for your information, Dr. Resi, last night I will talk to you, and this is my real stories. I
Oh,
couldn't.
okay.
My mind is keep circling around this upcoming event.
Okay.
This is very true. Even
Mm.
in my dreams, last night I dreamed. If follow with me, I dreamed that Dr. Azi and I were late to this seminar. I
Oh,
don't know. Maybe this is because I have a lot anxiety. I have anxious about this upcoming event
oh,
because this is my initial seminar and my initial international seminar with this association, and then this event ran early, so I decide to message Dr. Azi a week
oh,
before, and then I message you.
yes, you did.
Film, yeah. And I see you if you were still busy because I have seen your story and seems to have been acute since morning. I know, uh,
Yeah,
because your media social story I
yeah,
seen. I realized, okay, I think I covered by all the anxiety since last night, and then I know feel anxious, and then I text you, can you join early?
yeah,
Less it. And then just I need to, and then I take a deep breath. Then, okay, Satya, you just need to validate that feeling. And when I
yeah.
did, Okay, I could truly sense it. So that's a part and the small action. I think it's rise our awareness about mental health.
True.
Yeah.
Correct. I just want to share with you. Yes, I've actually been busy. There are a lot of things been going on this week, programs, and I actually give a talk to a beautician company yesterday. But I haven't put it in my social media because I do not have the time. So it's very interesting, yes, Sapti. It is not just happening to people think that the celebrities are not experiencing it. So yesterday I met celebrities, actors, and I was like very excited, and I was feeling anxious because they are actors, actresses, and who am I? But then I realized, just like you, hey Izzy, you are the one who are with the knowledge of mental health. Take charge of yourself. So I'm like, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, and I feel better. And I'm so happy that Sapti, you take charge of yourself, and Alhamdulillah, you're feeling better now. And one thing that you have to understand about me, I'm very committed. If you say 2 o'clock, I will be there. So don't worry. In the future, do not worry, okay?
Okay, Dr. Messi. I may be close always to you, but I still have those anxiety if
Yeah,
I'm
I'm
talking to
sure.
you. Okay. Can we ask someone this on participant who like
Huh?
to ask? Yep. One question, maybe or two question before
Sure.
Razi leaving.
Yeah.
Okay, everybody, we are moving into one of the most exciting parts to today's event, our discussion and Q&A session. In this moment, for all of you, both offline participant or online participant joining via Zoom, to actively engage with our speaker. If there is any question for Dr. Aziz, you can raise your hand or you can tap the emoticon in the Zoom meeting. Okay.
Sure.
Okay. Or yeah, Dr. Aziz, you can enjoy your drink first. I know it's
Never
very
mind, never mind. Okay.
okay. We waiting for someone.
Okay,
Okay.
have question.
Does anyone have question for Dr. Aziz?
Maybe if they don't have question, I will share some more, okay? There are different types of suicide. That is what we call as positive passive or active. Passive means it's your suicidal ideation. Okay. Active means it's your ideas, but you can also wanted to attempt. So that is what we are worried. So I just want to share with all of you that if you have this kind of thoughts that you want to leave this world, you don't want to exist anymore. So just take a moment to validate that feeling of frustrations, of anger, of sadness, because sometimes you do not need to think that way, but because you do not take charge of your thought patterns or cognitive, and that's how it affects you emotionally. So it is very important for us to understand that hey, these thoughts can generally results in from passive to active suicide thoughts, okay, or rather attempts. Now, what happened? There are many ways that people attempted suicide. Apa dia? Gantung diri ya, ikat talinya, okay. And then self-harm. And self-harm, for all of that, usually for me, I will ask my client to just do a simple exercise. When I detected there are more to whatever that they're saying, I'll say, let's have a short exercise. So we raise our hands. So when you raise your hands, you can see the marks here because usually we stand here, right? So then I will politely ask, oh, can you tell me what happened here? And they will start telling me, either the cat scratched them or they scratched themselves, or they will straight away tell you. But that is why it's very important for all of us to build rapport. Rapport building in the beginning is very important because you want to get their trust. Once they trust, that's when they start talking. Okay, but otherwise they will not open their mouth. They will feel that hey, you are not gonna. I cannot trust you because you're gonna share my stories to others. So this is just ridiculous. So building rapport is very important. So I would like to call upon all of the students, the beautiful girls that I see, long hair. Come, let's do something for the community. I can't wait to be there in 2026 because Dr. Ari says that she's going to invite me again. I'm looking forward to go there to talk about probably we can train your students to be the mental health advocate, and also we'll do something to the community. We can actually go out there, and when I train the students, let's have something like the students give back. I can do the TOT and the students can then go out to serve in the community. That'd be wonderful. So then we can probably come up with a module on how we can do this. That is already a book, a publication for Undiksha.
Yep, I strongly agree with that.
And that's also your PhD, Ms. Sapti.
Okay, I'll do it for you, Dr. Asi.
Okay.
Dr. Asi, we have one question for our offline participant. Would
Okay.
you mind to hear?
Okay. Sure.
Okay,
Sure.
sure. The committee, can you share the mic to the S? Okay. Oh, someone from our ceremony. Okay, next ceremony.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity, Miss Septia, and it's really nice to see you again, Dr. Aziz, after a year, I guess. I met you on when I was on my first semester, and right now I'm in my third semester. So I have a question. I will open my question with my experience first. So when I was in high school, I had a friend who experienced deep depression, and even she tried to attempt self-harm. At that time, I felt really confused and I don't know what should I do. I just tried to always be there for her and listen whenever she needs someone to talk. And thankfully, her condition right now is so much better, and I'm very proud of her. However, that experience made me wonder, what should we do when a friend shows signs of wanting to harm themselves or even attempt suicide? I'm also concerned because the suicide rate in Bali is relatively high. So how should we respond as a friend, as a student, or a future counselors when we face with such situation? That's all my question. I hope you can answer my question really well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, my dear. It's really nice to see you again after a year. Wow, such a pretty girl. Thank you so much. And I'm actually very sorry to hear that your friend went through this, yeah? And that must feel overwhelming for you too. But here are some of the important steps that I want you to just hear, listen to me, and then take care right away, yeah, when you experience this again. First of all, it's like PFA. What you're doing is basically psychological safety, or rather PFA, psychological first aid. So if your friend is in danger, okay, what you need to do, you need to have a plan, access to means, or has just attempted. Danger here means they have a plan, okay? Because suicide is usually suicide attempt, whether they usually come up with a plan, either a plan or they have the access to means, where means cara, ya, cara bagaimana mereka hendak buat, ataupun or has just attempted but failed. Okay? What you need to do first is to ensure immediate safety. So you need to be able to call the authority, whichever that is, like for example, call emergency, whether the parents, because this has to be done. When we are counselor, this is something that we have to breach because for the safety. In a counselor kan, kalau structuring itu, di waktu awal kan kita selalu bilang, if there is a potential harm to yourself or others, I would need to call the authority. So that is the clause where you can breach in terms of when your friend is actually in danger. So ensure that they are safe. You need to stay with them or ensure somebody that the person can actually trust until they're actually safe. Okay? Now, number 2, what you can do is in your own way, encourage professional help. Gently suggest that they see a counselor, a doctor, a psychologist, or a psychiatrist. and you offer yourself to probably accompany them if they're scared to go alone. I have students, I have clients who are scared to move forward, to go forward. Okay, because they feel that, hey, people is gonna judge me. So I said, would you like me to go with you? Okay, so I actually do that and listen without judgment. We are all counselors to be, inshallah. And for myself, we are counselors. Listen without judgment. Let them talk about how they feel without you trying to fix everything. Please do not impose your values because Septi's values and my values are different, although we are both Muslim. Just like you, right? We are Muslims, but our values are different. Do not impose. In fact, show empathy. I'm really sorry that you are feeling this way. Begitu. Jangan cakap. Jangan bilang, kenapa kamu gini? Jangan. Because it sounds like blaming. Tetapi I'm really sorry you are feeling this way. I am here with you. And what you can do next is to remove immediate dangers that possible. If possible, for example, make sure that they don't have access to the means. Means itu cara untuk that they could use. For example, pills maybe, drugs. Drugs too maybe can be paracetamol. It's also called drugs, yeah, or anything sharp objects. And you need to be able to stay connected. I've actually helped not many, 3 to 5 people. I stay connected with them. Okay, keep checking in regularly. As counselors, usually I do not give my phone numbers to people because they will call me in the middle of the night, okay, which I don't like because it will disrupt my functioning because I don't have enough sleep. Nanti saya marah pula kan. Jadi, but however, in cases where this is priority, I do that. I give my numbers and I always tell them, whatever time that you feel you need me, please call me. But for you, you are student, perhaps you have to actually tell your lecturers. You have to tell Miss Sapti, you have to tell Dr. Arif, you need to tell them so that they are the ones who's responsible to help. Okay. And sometimes, do you know that small gestures like messages, hey, how are you today? Hope you're feeling better, or visits, or makan-makan, we like to eat and have coffee, right? That can mean a lot. And most importantly, do not forget to take care of yourself too, because most of the time we worry so much about others, we forgot that, hey, we are draining ourselves to the max. It's like battery, your handphone battery. You use too much of your handphones trying to connect with people, but the battery will just drain and you forgot to charge the battery. Ended up, you tidak ada connectivity, you cannot communicate with people because you do not take care of yourself. Imagine you're the handphones with lack of battery. So you need to be recharged, you need to take care of yourself. And if it's very urgent, then you call the authority first lah, ataupun helpline macam tadi kan, Lisa, all that lah, Bali bisa, okay? Hopefully it helps. Thank you.
Thank you. What a debug, Dr. Razi. Hamsahamnida, Dr. Razi. But
Welcome.
unfortunately, Dr. Razi will need to leave us a little
Yeah.
early to do another important academic engagement schedule.
Thank
And
you.
yeah, on behalf of the organizing committee and all the participants, we sincerely thank for Associate Prof. Dr. Azzmawaty Moh for her present, her inspiring contribution, and her continuous commitment to advancing mental health education. Thank you, Dr. Aziz. Have a great day. We will see
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Septi. Thank you, students. Love you. I hope to see you again. Yeah. Bye. Assalamualaikum and a very good evening.
very good evening. Thank you, Dr. Aziz.
Thank
Let's
you.
give her warm applause, everybody. Yeah. Okay, that's all our the first speaker. Wow, this is a very interesting and exciting to talk about the mental health. But don't you worry, we still have one topics that will deliver about our the next speaker. This Dr. Xuan, Ph.D. But I need to check. He is in this room. Dr. Xuan, can you hear me? Okay. Can operator ping the Dr. Xuan after this? Okay. So I see Dr. Xuan have opened his camera. Okay. Dr. Xuan, can you hear me? Yeah, okay. So let's begin and let's move on to our second session. So this is my great honor to introduce again our next distinguished speaker. Okay. Dr. Daxwan cannot unmute himself. Can operator help him? Sorry.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Okay. So it is my great honor to introduce our next distinguished speaker, Dr. Daxwan Ph.D. from James Cook University Singapore. He is a lecturer, researcher, and counselor specializing in mental health counseling. We can have like in this mental health counseling, mindfulness meditation, and crisis intervention. And he is currently served as the principal counselor at Mindful Heart Counseling Singapore, and he is also affiliated as a counselor with the National University of Singapore. In terms of academic background, he is a doctor of philosophy, PhD in psychology from James Cook University Singapore, a master degree in counseling from the University of Social Science, Singapore University of Social Sciences, a Bachelor of Art in Psychology from the University of Queensland, and another bachelor degree in psychology from James Cook University, Singapore. Today, he will share about her perspective and his profession, and all his can bring us talk about the mental health, and with his extensive experience in counseling and mindfulness-based approaches, he has contributed to enhancing understanding and practices in mental health counseling, crisis response, and emotional resilience across the Asia. So without further ado, please we welcome our second speaker to this event. Let's give a warm round of applause, everyone.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the introduction, Satya.
Okay.
Let me just try to share my screen.
Okay. Dr. Dason, how are you today? You
I'm
good?
okay. I'm doing okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So this
Yeah.
is our initial collaboration. So I wish we have in the future we have more collaboration because
Yes.
because we have the same study program about we are in guidance and counseling. So I think we can open all the collaboration. Okay.
Yeah. I think so too. We actually work with University Pendidikan in Bandung.
Yep.
So yeah. So I think definitely we want to collaborate with Bali as well
Okay.
in terms
We
of
can
research. Yeah.
invite you to come to Bali and take a guest lecture in this.
Okay. I would love to go.
Okay. Dr. Daxon, you have 45 minutes to
Sure.
listen, and then we can open Q&A session for around 20 minutes.
Mm.
Time is
Okay.
yours.
Thank you. So hi everyone. So like what Satya has introduced, I'm a lecturer in counseling here at James Cook University in Singapore. So for today, I see my role perhaps is really as a person who share. So I will be sharing my research findings, right? And basically, and hopefully some of the findings that I gathered will be helpful for everyone here in Bali as well. So my topic for today will be youth mental health. And specifically, I'm trying to understand how mental health professionals, which include clinical psychologists, social worker, youth worker, and counselors, so how mental health professionals view youth mental well-being through social connection. Okay, so a bit of myself, yeah. Not that I'm egoistic or narcissistic, but I think it will be good for everyone here to have a contextual understanding of what is my background. So I'm trained in psychology. So specifically, I'm looking at the phenomenon of prejudice and discrimination and why we hold certain negative views of people who might be vulnerable or belongs to the minority. So I'm interested in that kind of perspective. And I have a master's in counseling. So I'm trained as a clinical supervisor and also a registered counselor with Singapore Association of Counseling. So my background, I have 10 years of experience working with youth and tertiary students. Most of my years are spent working as a university counselor at National University of Singapore. Right. So because of where I am, I am particularly interested in how youth mental health looks like in Singapore. But I will suspect that it's pretty much the same in Bali as well. So what happens in Singapore is that we have been finding that there's a higher prevalence of mental disorder among youth, which I think is shared in Bali as well. So on the top right hand, right, on my slides, right, you can see that in 2016, we actually did a survey and find that 3.1% of youth, right, actually experience 2 or more mental disorders. 3.1% is not a small number, right? So we classify youth as between 18 years old to 35. And some of the contributing factors, right, to youth mental health will include, having parental history, right? The parents having depression or anxiety. And some of the youth, right, actually are placed in a caregiving role, right, where they have to support their parents. So all these caregiving kind of responsibilities does affect youth mental health as well. And of course, if the youth come from a low family socioeconomic status, right, having difficulty providing for themselves financially does affect their mental health. Right? On top of that, right, academic stress, very, very big contributing factors to youth mental health. Right? And this stress does not come from within the youth themselves, right? This pressure, this stress, right, towards excelling in grades usually comes from their surroundings, right? Which will include their peers, their friends, and their teachers, right? Of course, their parents also, right? And some of the other contributing factors will include, exposure to childhood adversities, right? In research, we call this adverse childhood events, right? The childhood history of neglect, this feeling of unloved, of being shamed, being scolded by our parents, by our peers, could also affect youth mental well-being. One of the things that we tend to find is that excessive use of social media, right, can affect youth mental health, especially around this phenomenon called outward social comparison. So we are comparing with people who have a more kind of flamboyant lifestyle. They are able to go for travels, right? Go overseas, right? Every 3 months. Sometimes just comparing with our peers can make us feel lonely, can make us feel disappointed with our own lifestyle. And also loneliness. We do find ourselves currently in an epidemic of loneliness. We are socially connected on the online platform, right? We have a lot of friends, we share posts, people like our posts. So we are socially connected in that front. But most of them, we find ourselves feeling very lonely when it comes to real life relationship. And also, particularly during this age group, right? You experience bodily changes, right? So we talk about puberty, right? So these bodily changes makes you very self-conscious of how people perceive their body image. And sometimes they will, on top of being very self-conscious, they compare with others on social media. This person is thinner, this person is bulkier for men, a lot more muscles. Sometimes this comparison does makes most of the youth feel very disappointed with themselves and so shame. I'm not good enough, right? So all these contribute to youth mental health. And of course, peer victimization and cyberbullying does affect youth mental health as well, right? So that's about Singapore, right? But I suspect it can be generalized across the world, right? So I did try to, we talk about all these contributing factors, right? It does seem like, the society relationship sometimes can make us feel bad, right? But at the same time, social connection almost like is a double-edged sword. It can help, it can hurt us, but it can also help us. So having that strong connection can also be a protective factor. If we find our peers supportive, if we feel safe to share our emotion with our friends, if we have a good parents, good siblings, good family network, right? Good uncles, good aunties, where we have an argument with our parents, right? We can turn to our relative to complain, right? And our relatives kind of support us, reassure us, and sometimes help us mediate, right, between our that disagreement with our parents. So when we have that strong bond, it can definitely serve as a protective factor. So on top of that, community belongingness, right? So I have a sense that when I go outside, right, with my neighbors, I will have a good relationship with my neighbors. When I go to school, I have a sense that can have quality relationship outside of my family. So this community belongingness can definitely serve as a protective factor. And online social media dynamics. In Australia, they talk about social media ban, right? And there's a constant debate on whether should we ban handphone social media at school? Could we ban? Is it possible for us to actually ban it in school? Because students will hide, right? They will have different devices, right? Not just one. Can we and should we? Right now, my personal take is that we have to increase the likelihood for youth to establish social connection in real life, right? But sometimes through forcing, sometimes it might make the youth find that we are forcing them to do things that they don't like. So definitely we should try to increase the likelihood of them interacting in real life. So how do we manage that is something that we have to consider in our own cultural context. So it's definitely my personal take. I have 2 children. So if I have a choice, I will want to ban social media. But sometimes, with youth, when they compare with their friends have phone, their friends have social media. Sometimes it's very hard to just say no. So how do we balance it? How do we give the youth a sense of autonomy while at the same time allowing them to have that chance, right, to build relationship in real life? So social connection and how it relates to mental well-being is really is kind of established already, right, in Brenner's ecological system theory. So in his theory, he says that an individual well-being is not just decided by their personality, by their well-being. It's very much dependent on how they relate with external system. So with their family system, with their culture system, with their school system, and with their country, right, as a whole. So it's very important for us to see connection in that systemic kind of lens. And it's very important for us to consider social kind of intervention, right? Because what happens, right? So a recent mental health atlas. So this research is done by World Health Organization, and I see Septia has the World Health Organization logo. So you must be very familiar with this publication. So this publication, right, is a kind of an atlas. So they kind of collected data from 194 member states across the world, right? But they collected the data during COVID. So a lot of nations did not participate. So that's one of the limitations of this research. But what they did find is that in ASEAN, right, in our region, only a few, so 41%, so less than 1 out of 2 countries in ASEAN, right, have an existing policy, right, in their government policies or during their parliamentary debate, right. There's only 41% of the country have a policy on youth mental health, specifically on youth mental health. And when it comes to expenditure, right, I think Azzmawaty actually mentioned this also. Only 1.1% to 1.3% of national health expenditure is spent on mental health, right? 1.1 to 1.3% on health expenditure is spent on mental health. So this translates to about US dollars 30 cents. Right? I'm not exactly sure how many things you can buy in Bali. I did a brief Google search. I think you can buy a huge bottle of mineral water in Bali, but I think that's about it, right? Yeah. So definitely not enough if you want to seek out treatment with a psychiatrist, with a GP or a counselor. On average, right, how many sessions a youth need from their counselor? They actually need very frequent interaction. What they found in this mental health atlas is that for a typical youth, right, they need to seek out at least 63 sessions. 63 before they feel better. So I got a sense that 30 cents might not be that helpful, might not be able to afford that kind of interaction. So what this translates to is that in terms of national kind of investment, right, it's definitely limited. So this means that because of the limited number of funding that is being used on this front, right, this means that many agencies cannot come out with nationwide policies because they don't have the advertising budget right? And also there might be limited youth-specific mental health services as well because of the limited funding to trained professionals. So what we found in ASEAN, right, only 0.01, less than 0.01 youth mental health workers for every 100,000 people in ASEAN nation. The global average is 0.37. And also community stigma, right? Because of the lack of investment. It does say that on the national front, there's no emphasis. People don't see value or don't see importance in putting resources into mental health. So definitely there's a stigma around mental health issues. So what this means, right? This means that the government cannot, there's not enough funding from government. So that means that a lot of initiation needs to come from the ground up. So a lot of demand for community-based support, right? So in ASEAN, what they found is that the government tends to give a lot of power to community-based intervention. So in Singapore, what we did, right, is that we developed this thing called tier care model, right? What we are trying to do is to kind of enforce, try to encourage inter-agencies collaboration, right? So we try to encourage school counselors to work with social workers to work with youth workers to work with boys' home, right? As well as with government agencies. So we developed that, right, to support collaboration. And we also developed a plan to train 1,000 community mental health champions. So these are volunteers. Yeah? So the volunteers can be peer supporters. The volunteers can be peer helpers, right? So anyone of you who are studying as a counselor would be a volunteer. So they are thinking of training in Singapore. We are thinking of training 1,000. And this 1,000 champion will then further train 130,000 frontline personnel. So we really try to build our frontline support, right? Because we cannot wait until things get worse. When they see a counselor, it might be too late. So we want to train a lot of volunteers to kind of intervene at the very start, at the early stage. And we also developed this community health assessment team that also allow youth, right, to get free assessment. So just now Azzmawaty talk about DAS, right? DAS 21. So this chat, right? We call them chat. They conduct free assessment for youth to get an early sense of how they are doing mental health wise, so that they can use that information to then decide whether they want to seek further treatment. Right. We also have this online helpline. I think I saw briefly from Azzmawaty's slide. I think Bali also have a helpline, right? So Singapore have one. Right now we are also trying to develop a WhatsApp group chat. So youth, sometimes they don't want to call, right? They don't want to talk, right?
Yep.
Yeah, they don't want to talk for some reason. So have to chat now. Yeah, so we developed this WhatsApp chat, which is 24/7. So we train a big group of volunteers to man this WhatsApp chat, and that's 24/7 as well. And then the government also tries to fund a lot of community-based interest groups because everyone have their own talent and interests. So what the government did is that they actually provide funding for community to develop their own interest group. So through that interest group, people can band together to have social interaction, to make new friends in that sense, right? Right. So that's what the government is trying to do to encourage ground-up initiative, right? So in my research, I look at mental health professionals, and why I do that is because, when we talk about mental health support, ground-up initiative, I'm interested to know what does mental health professional actually see this kind of intervention and initiative. Do they find these initiatives helpful, right? Because in a way, mental health professionals does value social connection, right? So in counseling, we try to build, we call this therapeutic alliance. And we define therapeutic alliance in a very specific way. We talk about trust, whether the client trusts that the therapist will not disclose information that they share, right? Trustworthiness. And also whether there's a consensus in goals and process. So definitely social connection is being emphasized in counseling and as well as therapeutic relationship. And also in terms of therapeutic work, right? The mental health professionals also find that it's helpful to role model what adaptive relationship looks like. So how do I share feedback? How do I share my needs? How do I build boundaries? How do I be assertive? right? So we role model it, and in session we also evaluate the youth ability to do so. But yet no study had actually looked at whether mental health professionals actually find value in collaborating with other stakeholders when it comes to social connection intervention. So in my research, I look at these two questions, right? So how does the current social climate affect youth mental health? And what does mental health professionals, MHP, mental health professionals experience as key mechanisms of change among youth mental health issues in regards to social connection? Okay, so basically I interview mental health professionals. So they are between 32 to 66 years old. And we covered 9 counselors, 2 social workers, and 1 youth worker. And most of them have more than 10 years of experience. Okay, so this is a finding. I think this is interesting. Not sure whether you all will find this interesting as well. Okay, so what we found is that when it comes to living in an urban city, so in Singapore, we are very closely, the population density is very high. So what we found is that with this close proximity, right, physical proximity, it creates more chances to build connection, but it also increases the chances for conflict, right? So that's the problem of living in urban cities, because we have a higher chance of conflict and disagreement. And also urban youth, they are very much exposed to global content. And that means that they might be exposed to information about, wars, about disagreement, about poverty, about climate change. And some of these topics, right, is very, very hard to address and very, very emotionally triggering. So because they are exposed to this content on a very wide scale, right, they might not be equipped with that emotional skills to regulate themselves. So being exposed to this information actually makes it worse for them, because they are emotionally overwhelmed and they do not have the skills to cope with it. The third thing about living in urban cities, right, is that because our relationship can be very fleeting, right? I'm talking about urban youth. Because when I'm in school, I only see my friend perhaps for 1 year, for 2 years before I switch classes, right? So when it comes to relationship, it's always seen as functional. I'm not sure whether this is the case in Bali, but I heard from my client once is that when their friends do not communicate good vibe, they actually don't want to connect with their friends anymore. So if if I in the presence of my friend and I don't perceive good vibe, I don't want to see them even. I will avoid them. So that means that relationship is being seen as functional and transactional. And by that definition, it's definitely not relational. So the relationship is not, the relationship with their peers is not of high quality. So that might translate to them feeling lonely and emotionally disconnected. The second theme that we found when it comes to social connection and youth mental health, right, is that the influence of digital medium, right? Youth tends to value interaction in online spaces because it's less intimidating, because I can hide my face, right? I cannot show my camera. A lot of control, right, in the hands of the youth. So they value interaction in social media and online spaces. But that also means that it weakens, it minimizes their exposure to real life interaction. It keeps them safe, but might be too safe to the point where they don't have the chance to develop the skills, right? That is necessary for real life interaction. And also we did find that digital medium, right, becomes a proxy for parenting. So in the past, right, we turn to our parents, right, or elderly for advice and wisdom, right? We turn to our teachers for knowledge. But now, youth don't turn to such individuals anymore. They go to social media influencer, right? So this means that there are a lot of people sharing a lot of different advice. So that translates to youth, right, finding themselves feeling very lost, confused, lack of direction, because the advice they receive might be contradicting. So that's the influence of digital medium on mental health, right? And also youth do find that they need more safe and supportive environment, right? And most of them right, actually share their emotional vulnerability, their emotion with people. Perhaps they start by sharing with their parents, but their parents say certain things that make them feel not so helpful. So over time, right, this sense of I can't trust people, I don't feel safe in sharing, does make them less likely to be open to share emotion when they grow up, right? If they share when they are in early childhood or when they are in primary school, right, and it's not helpful, it's less likely for them to be open to sharing their emotion when it comes to their youth, right? And most urban youth, right, does find the current formal support system. So be it support from their teachers, be it support from their school counselors, come across as paternalistic, right? Like a father, right? You should do this, you should do that. And sometimes it felt paternalistic, and sometimes it also came across as, they might not be valuing what the youth actually need themselves. So that's another contributor towards youth mental symptoms and issues. And also, for the fourth theme that we highlighted is family dynamics and home environment. So what we did find is that there's a misaligned expectation of child-parent relationship. What does the child want from the mother might not be the same as what the mother feel like she want to provide for the child. Right? So for example, the child might want the parent to be at home more often. The child wants that, the mother to be there. But the mother feel that I should focus on earning more money for the family. So that's a misalignment of expectation. Not anyone's fault, not to blame anyone. It's just a misalignment of expectation. Does make it come across like I'm alone, right? To the youth. So what we did find in terms of protective factors, right, is that when the parents are involved, so they are observant, right? So when the child comes home, lock themselves in the room, right, the parents actually observe it and are involved. So they ask questions, they follow up. Usually these type of parents are protective resources, right? Because what we found is that youth sometimes where they are trying to seek help, they need a bit of push. They need someone to kind of push them towards help seeking. So having that nudge from the parents, hey, I think you need to see a counselor from the parent could be helpful, could be what the youth need, right? And I think that we found is that shrinking family unit. So now usually when it comes to family unit, especially in Singapore, each family only have one child or at most two child, right? And that means that across generation, the child will have less uncles and aunties. So the support system within the family becomes smaller. So the resources shrinks as well. So that does affect mental well-being. So now I talk about how social connection is related to mental well-being. Right? So how does mental health professionals view as a key mechanism of change? So what can we do, right, as a mental health professional to support youth mental health? So I identify 4 themes, right? So the first one is we definitely have to adopt a multidisciplinary approach because there's only a limitation to how much we can do individually. So definitely we have to psycho-educate teachers, parents, peers, right, on mental health support. How do you show empathy? How do you respond when your friends share with you that they are depressed, that they are thinking of hurting themselves? What can you say? What can you do? Right? It's very important for each of us, right? So including the mental health professionals themselves, right? As well as people in the school to know exactly where to refer. Because the last thing that we want, right, is to suggest the youth to go and see the school counselor, only for the school counselor to tell the youth that I'm not the right person. You have to see a social worker. It does make the youth feel like they are bouncing back and forth from different people. And that will make them feel unsafe and disrespected, right? So definitely as mental health professionals, we need to know exactly where to refer. And for us to do that, we need to know what the youth actually need themselves, right? And also proactive in collaboration across agencies. So a lot of advocacy. So no longer is a day when a counselor or clinical psychologist see their client in the room. We have to work with other people. We have to write reports, we have to call a teacher and their parents to just connect and to check in. So we have to do that proactively, right? The second thing that we do, we have to come up with programs, right, that is very use specific. So we cannot come up with programs that we use for adults and then try to adapt it to youth. youth want programs to be targeted towards them. So how do we do that? We must entice them with social activities that they enjoy. Right now, what we find is that in Singapore, I'm not sure that this is the case for Bali, they enjoy pets. Playing with dogs, cats could be a helpful lead into engaging youth. Right? And what we did found is that training peer supporters, right, could help in minimizing stigma. So some youth don't like to see counselors because they feel that if I see counselors, does that mean that I'm weak? Does that mean that there's something wrong with me? So sometimes they much prefer to see a peer supporter or mentor. So that means that we have to train the peer supporters and mentor. As a mental health professional, we need to train people. And also in the school front or in terms of outreach effort or psychoeducation, we have to normalize different types of achievement or success. So it's very important that, in universities, in schools, in primary schools and secondary schools, right, different individuals share, right, their career. So for example, having someone who have perhaps got poor grades, right, you can invite them to share how they are successful right now in their career. Just to normalize that there are different pathways to success so that the student would not feel like there's only one restricted or rigid pathway towards success, which is great, which is not the case. What we find is that youth, they value confidentiality more than adults. They want assurance that what they share will not be disclosed to their parents or their teachers. This is a very tricky kind of situation because we want to keep the parents involved, right? Because the parents is the guardians. But yet at the same time, if we are insistent on that, youth do not want to engage with services. So how do we provide an anonymous platform where we can provide quick support without putting the client in a position where they have to disclose their name or their contact details? So in Singapore, what we did, right, is that we have this chat group where the youth can just get, on the go kind of support without sharing their name or their contact number. So that might be something that Bali might want to consider or implement. I'm not sure that this is something that you are already using, but yeah. And in terms of creating safe social environment, is to build a social environment of common experience, right? So that people will say things like, I also go through this. So it's almost like they feel that I'm not alone. When I'm feeling lonely, I'm not alone in this loneliness. So perhaps coming out with support groups where people share their own mental health journey could be helpful. So again, build a social environment of common experience. And also increase the likelihood of, youth, right? Increase the likelihood of them having positive memories and stable relationship. Because what makes growing up in this period overwhelming is that because there's a lot of transition, right? They have to move schools, right? They change schools, they change majors, going to different classes, a lot of transition. So sometimes just having that stability can be helpful. So perhaps the school counselors can come up with a program that cuts across their entire school journey where, there's a consistent time, venue where people can talk. And there's a stable figure, adult figure who will be there, could be helpful, right? So it's about creating a safe, consistent, stable social environment. The last theme that we find that could be a key mechanism of change would be family involvement. So definitely when it comes to supporting youth, right, we need to involve the parent. Because what we did found is that parental involvement is necessary for long-term impact, right? Because whatever that we do at school, right, might not translate, might not generalize to their family situation. So we definitely need to train the parent. We definitely need to influence some change in the family kind of front, right? And to help the youth differentiate in a more adaptive and healthy way away from the family of origin. So these are some strategies that I thought could be helpful, right? That kind of comes out from my own research, right? One is school-wide training workshop on mental health literacy. So to train the teachers and train the students, so because they are the frontline personnel, right? So they can observe, they can pick up on signs of distress, and that they can refer to school counselors if necessary, right? So school-wide training, peer mentoring programs, right? So training students who are interested in doing this, or senior students, right, who are more advanced in their academics, right? So, for example, primary six student to mentor for primary one students, perhaps, right? So that these peer mentoring programs can foster social skills and also rethink on the definition of success. Right, school-based activities or intervention. So come up with a lot of varieties of CCAs, co-curricular activities, where people can engage with like-minded individuals. Right, so to increase the likelihood of them interacting with people in real life could be helpful. And regular engagement with parents about different type of academic pathways, to update the parents on the emotional well-being of their child and their social functioning could be helpful, right? Not just in primary school, but also in secondary school or high school could be helpful as well. And then the last one would be partnership, right? A proactive partnership, right? With multiple stakeholders. So if we are counselors ourselves, how do we partner in a more collaborative way with government agencies, with youth workers, with social workers? Could be something that we want to consider, right? So to end off, my summary for my presentation would be that youth mental health is very much relational. So we need to find ways to relate to the youth and to help them relate with other people in their social connection, right? And social connection is central to youth well-being. Yes. So that's all I have.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Xuan Bexley. What a wonderful and what a meaningful insight for your presentation. And that was a booming and that was a boom. Yeah, it's like a Dr. Z said, and this is like a relevant and similar. And there is a new research and a new insight that we got from the presentation. Okay. And your explanation about the mind emotion religion about especially about your research is share a journey of I think about awareness and then empathy, support within our communities, and is such a crucial. And that's I strongly
Very
agree.
crucial. Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Now we are moving into one of the most exciting parts of today's event because I see a lot of people that have questioned before, but because there are a limited time with the Dr. Razi, maybe this is the time is particularly all the questioner can deliver the question. Okay.
I will try to answer. I might not know the answer though.
If you don't mind, Doctor. Okay. Okay. If you are joining us on site, please feel free to raise hand and our team will assist you with the microphone so you can deliver your question directly. But for those joining online, you can may raise your virtual hand and simply type or your question on the chat box and I will read it out for our speaker. All right, everyone, we would like to ask the first question. Okay, the committee can have. Who would like to ask the first question? Okay. Well, okay. We have one question. Okay, I see my kids here. Okay.
Okay, thank you very much for the opportunity. Um, my name is Ayumira. I am a student from Guidance and Counseling Study Program, which is a fifth semester. I want to ask question is, if a mental health professional emphasize the importance of social relationship for adolescent well-being, to what extent does the stigma that only people with mental disorders go to psychologists actually reflect society failure to build supportive social network rather than simply a lack of mental health literacy or resistance to social change?
Wow. Social change, okay?
It's like we breaking about the title. If we are going to psycholog, it's mean we are unhealthy. That's right.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yep.
Wow.
How is your doctor?
We talk about the community stigma, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it takes time. Sometimes it takes generation for change to happen. So I don't have a quick answer, but I do know that ongoing conversation does help. So that's where mental health professional has to play a more proactive role when it comes to psychoeducation. And interestingly, I do feel that as a mental health professional, we need to engage with communities as well as with youth where they are. So we need to go to the ground to engage with them. So it's no longer the case where we say that we come up with a brochure to say that mental health talk. We advertise in that way, nobody will come. We have to go to where they are. So, for example, I will go to the school. I will try to have play an activity right with the youth. We can come up with a jamming session, playing guitar. And during playing guitar, we can talk about how music is important and what does the lyrics of the music make us feel, and how important it is for us to relate to the meaning, the emotion that underlies those emotions. So almost like we need to share, we need to educate how important mental well-being, right? By engaging with them where they are, right? So hopefully with time, the the conversation about mental health will change. It's no longer something that is wrong, that is something problematic. It's not a sickness. It's not a disease. It's not it's not it's not we talk about genie, right? It's not about being possessed, right? But rather it's something that's very universal. Everyone go through this. We need to talk about it so that we can provide support for each other. So I'm not sure that answers your question though. Ayumira. Hopefully it does.
Okay, thank you. That's all, Ayumira. Thank you for asking, kids. That was a wonderful question. Okay, give applause for our questioner. Okay, so all right, we would like to ask the next question. Okay, we have one question. Again, I think this is because of the interesting topic. So all the kids in here, online both offline, wanna ask more question to you, doctor. Okay.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity. Let me introduce myself first. My name is Gung In. I am from Guidance and Counseling in third semesters. So I would like to ask some question. It is about if social connection is central to youth well-being, how can mental health professional address the growing sense of isolation caused by digital interaction rather than face-to-face connection? So maybe that's all about my question about the material. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
First one. Okay.
Yeah. I was thinking about this, right? So I was saying that we need to meet the youth where they are, right?
Yeah.
So sometimes as a mental health professional, we cannot stay in our ivory tower. Sometimes we have to market and advertise, right? So what this means is that we have to come up with TikTok video sometimes, right? So we have to be engaging, right? We have to be more proactive to engage youth, right?
Yep.
We have to we have to go out of our room to engage them. So that's how I was saying we need to go to where they are in terms of their school setting. We also need to go out of our way to meet them where they are in online spaces. So if you are at TikTok, we need to go to TikTok to engage with them. If they are at Instagram, we need to go to Instagram, right? Is that an ideal way? I don't know, but that is something where that is a place where they are. So we have to meet them where they are. So is it ideal? Probably not. But like I mentioned, we need to engage them and hopefully we can entice them to interact with people in real life. But we need to convince them first. So how do we convince them? We need to meet them where they are. And that could be an online space. I hope that answered your question, Gong Yin.
Okay. Thank you, doctor, and thank you for Gung In, my girls, who delivered the question for our speaker. And all right, we would like to ask the next question again for the offline. For the offline, still have a question for our speaker. Okay. I think it's enough for the offline because there is no question again. And I give the change for the participant will joining online in Zoom. If you have a question for our speaker, Dr. Xuan Ph.D., you can raise your hand with the virtual emoticon or you can write on the chat box. Okay. While we waiting for the next question, Dr. Daxwan, can you explain to us, you ever mentioned before in your presentation, and Dr. Azi also mentioned this about the climate change is actually affect in our mental health. Would you like to give some explanation again about that? Why it's affect our mental health? Let's talk about what you can share with us.
I feel that it's not, my sense is that it's not very conscious. It's very felt. So there's this sense that the world is in turmoil.
Mhm.
The world is very complex, it's chaotic, everything is uncertain. We talk about stable relationship, right? A stable environment. And, with the war, right? A lot of national conflict, as well as climate change, it makes the entire global environment very chaotic, unpredictable, definitely not stable, right? So when the environment that we are in felt unstable, it made us feel unsafe. It made us feel stressed. It made us feel lost. It made us feel weak. It made us feel powerless, right? A lot of things. So even when it comes to what do I study, what do I build, what is a successful career, what can I study now that will guarantee that I can find a job when I graduate. Everything is so uncertain. So on top of climate change, all of these factors combined make it very likely that a youth felt, confused, lost. Loss is something that I hear very often when it comes to counseling youth. They feel lost and confused most of the time because they don't have a sense of direction. And because, when it comes to social media, right, and their parents, everybody is telling them different things.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Yep, I strongly agree about that. It's just one of the factor. There is more factor that make us unsafe, and then we feel about emotional disconnect, like you mentioned before, emotionally overwhelmed, lack of
Mm,
direction and purpose. Yeah, I strongly agree about that
yeah.
also. And that
But
was
but I do want to say one thing is that
yep.
seeking mental health support would be helpful because it does help the youth become more aware of what their values are. Because values is very important for coming up with their direction because it's their compass, right? Their moral compass, their value,
Yep.
right? Yeah.
Okay. Okay, Dr. Dagdan, there is no question for you. You have a closing remarks to close this seminar? Because
Mm,
in the end of this session.
yeah. I I do want to highlight that having mental health difficulties doesn't mean that the youth are abnormal or weak in any way. It's really it's really the result of the circumstances that we are in right now. So as a helper, we need to find ways to help them feel less alone and help them find and uncover their own sense of direction through social connection. And sometimes when a person feels like they are not alone, it can be liberating. It can be empowering. So yeah, so I will end with that. Thank you, Satya.
Wonderful. So we truly appreciate your willingness to share knowledge and inspire hope in the spirit of this year World Mental Health Day theme, Doctor. So everybody, please give an applause, a big applause to our last speaker today's event, Dr. Daksuan, PhD. What a lovable, insightful material presentation. And on behalf of the organizing committee for the Student Association of the Department and Educational Sciences, Guidance and Counseling Psychology, I would like to express our deepest gratitude to our speaker, especially for Dr. Daswan and all the participants and everyone who made today's event is really possible. Thank you,
Thank you for the
Dr.
invite.
Tatswan. Thank you for coming, and I looking forward to another
Future
potential
collaboration, yeah.
opportunity. We can invite you to Bali. Oh, yep. I forgot something. Our committee have some certificate for you. So can committee help me to show the certificate? So this is the first initial our collaboration, and I wish you always enjoy this conversation, Dr. Xuan. Okay, I'm one of the lecturer in guidance and counseling program, and we always invited others lecturer in others university to come and join to be our guest lecturer and the speaker in our like seminar and international guest lecture. Maybe after this I will bring you with another another meeting and another potential collaboration. Okay.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. Can anybody can share? The committee can share the certificate for Dr. Xuan. XD. I'm so sorry, Dr. Xuan, if I have
okay.
mistaken to spell your name. Okay. Okay, this
Yeah,
is
it's all right. Yeah.
certificate from Dr. Xuan, PhD, for our Faculty of Education.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Have a lovely day, Dr. Xuan, and I'll see you soon in another meeting. Thank you,
Thank you,
Doctor.
everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Goodbye. Okay. Thank you, everybody. Let us keep promoting wellness and spreading kindness and cultivating hope, not just today, but I wish you always cherish every single moment, every single time that you have to feel in every day. Once again, thank you to all the active participation. Stay well, stay balanced, and see you in our next event. Have a wonderful day, everyone. Happy World Mental Health Day, everyone. Bye.
Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes the Intellecta Talk activity as part of the Psychology 5 series organized by the Student Association of the Department of Education, Psychology and Guidance in 2025. Thank you for the presentations by both speakers. We also thank everyone for their participation and enthusiasm. We apologize for any errors or shortcomings during this event. See you at the Intellecta Talk of the Student Association of the Department of Education, Psychology and Guidance, Faculty of Educational Sciences, Universitas Pendidikan Ganesha in 2026. Finally, let us close this event together by saying greetings. Om Santi 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 Om. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Shalom, Nama Budaya, good greetings to all of us, and harmony greetings or salam harmony. To the speakers, invitees, and participants, without reducing respect, please leave the room and also the Zoom meeting. Thank you. Mohon perhatian buat partisipan offline-nya, dimohon untuk jangan keluar ruangan dulu. Karena kita akan membuat sebuah video untuk memperingati Hari Kesehatan Mental Sedunia. Mungkin teman-teman yang duduknya di sebelah pinggir bisa merapat duduk di